Okay, so you're listening because AI is on your mind, right? And even more so, how to make it work for you, for your business. I mean, that's the big question, right? So we found this really interesting piece. It's from Newport Partners Group, and they call it Maximizing AI ROI. Newport Partners Data-Driven Roadmap for Success.
Catchy title.
It is catchy, right? And, it got us thinking we should do a deep dive into this and really try to figure out what are the key takeaways here. How can we help you get a solid return on your AI investment? And they really focus on this data-driven approach.
Yeah, and that's what's so important right now. I feel like everybody's talking about AI, everybody's trying to figure it out, but it's not a guarantee, right?
Yeah.
Just because you jump in doesn't mean you're going to see a return, and that's what this piece really gets at.
Exactly.
There's so much investment, but then the question is, are we actually seeing results? And Newport Partners have this really great roadmap that we're going to break down, and hopefully by the end, you'll have a really good sense of how to make AI work for you.
Yeah. So let's dive into that roadmap. I mean, what's the first thing that they say is absolutely crucial to getting AI right?
Well, first and foremost, you have to start with strategic alignment.
Okay.
That's their big thing. And what they mean by that is they're basically saying you can't treat your AI projects like these separate little science experiments off in a corner somewhere. You know? They have to be tied into what your business is actually doing and how you measure success, your KPIs.
Right. So you need to know what problem you're trying to solve with AI.
Like, think of it this way. If your goal is to increase sales, right, you have to use AI in a way that's directly going to impact that. Are you using it to personalize recommendations? Are you using it to optimize your pricing? And then the key is you have to actually track those sales figures after you implement those tools so you see if it's actually working.
So basically, you need to know what you want AI to actually do for your business.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay, so you've got that direction, you've got those goals set. Where do you go from there? What's the next step?
Okay, so once you know where you're headed, you absolutely need to have a solid data foundation.
Data.
Right. Data, because AI lives and breathes data.
Right.
And they make this point very clearly. Newport Partners, high-quality, well-managed data is the bedrock of all of this. And it's more than just having a lot of data. It's about having the right data. It's like if you're trying to cook a gourmet meal, but all you have are, wilted lettuce and some stale bread, you're not going to get very far.
You're not going to win any awards.
Exactly. AI is the same way. Bad data in equals bad results out. Sure. So that means you need to have a clear data strategy. How are you collecting it? How are you storing it? How are you keeping it clean and organized? And it also means having the infrastructure, the technology to actually support all of that.
Okay, so we've got our strategy, we've got our data, it's all clean and organized and ready to go. How do we actually start building these AI solutions to get that return?
All right, well, this is where their roadmap talks about this idea of iterative development and deployment.
Okay, so break that down for me.
So what they're really saying is don't try to build the biggest, baddest, most perfect AI system all at once right out of the gate.
Start small.
Start small. You got it. And this is what they mean by iterative. You start with a smaller project, a pilot project. You test it. You see how it works. You learn from it. And then you use those learnings to adjust. And then you do another one and another one. And it's like a cycle you're constantly testing and learning and refining.
So it's almost like running a series of experiments then.
Exactly. You got it. And that's so much more effective than just throwing a ton of money at this huge system and hoping it's going to work perfectly right out of the gate.
Right. So don't get ahead of yourself. Start small. See what works.
Exactly.
Okay. So we've got the strategy, the data, the iterative approach. Is there anything beyond the tech itself that we need to be thinking about?
Yes. 100%. And this is where the human element comes in. You can't forget about the people involved in all of this.
Right.
So Newport Partners, they're very clear about this. You need the right talent. You need people who know how to build and manage these systems. But it also goes beyond just skills. You need to have a company culture that actually embraces AI.
Right.
If your team is resistant to change, if they don't understand how AI works, it doesn't matter how good your technology is, it's not going to succeed. And that means encouraging collaboration, getting your tech teams and your business teams talking to each other, making sure everyone's on the same page.
It's like anything else, right? You need buy-in. You need people to want to use it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can have the best hammer in the world, but if nobody knows how to swing it, what's the point?
Yeah, it's just going to sit there.
Exactly.
So we've got our strategy, our data, our step-by-step approach. We've got our team on board.
Yeah.
What's the final piece of the puzzle here to actually make sure we're getting that ROI?
All right, so the last piece, but certainly not the least, is performance measurement and optimization.
Okay, so basically making sure that what we're doing is actually working.
Exactly. You got it. So you have to set up really clear metrics to track how your AI is performing against those business goals that we talked about way back in the beginning, remember?
Right back to the beginning.
Full circle. And here's the thing, it's not a one-time check-in. You have to be constantly looking at the data, seeing what's working, what's not. And then you use that information to tweak your AI models,
Mhm.
adjust your strategy. It's this continuous loop of improvement.
So basically, AI is not a set it and forget it kind of thing. You're constantly learning and evolving.
Exactly. You have to stay on top of it.
So to sum it all up, it sounds like it's not just about having the coolest AI technology. It's about having that strategic alignment with your business goals, having a really strong data foundation, taking that step-by-step approach, having the right talent, and then constantly measuring and improving what you're doing.
You got it in a nutshell. That's the recipe for success.
That is a great recipe. I think I'm going to write that one down. And you know what? This conversation has really opened my eyes, and hopefully it's done the same for you listening out there. As you're thinking about your own work, think about these principles. Are you setting the right strategy? How healthy is your data? Are you taking things one step at a time? Do you have a good team in place? And are you really measuring the impact of what you're doing? These are all crucial questions to ask yourself as you navigate this world of AI. And it makes me think, even if you have all of that figured out, right? Even if your strategy, your data, your tech, your team are all top notch, what if there's something deeper going on? What if the culture of the company itself is actually working against AI adoption without people even realizing it? Something to ponder, right?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Something to think about for sure.
Definitely. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the deep dive.
See you later.